Hi, this is Panzer J. Patton coming to you from the tower in Loves Park, Illinois, and going to talk about my table. So before I can really go into and show you the table, I wanted to tell you, so this process of building a table started actually in 2019, in the spring of 2019. Or maybe early summer. Sired Blood put out videos about how to make a table, and I kind of liked the style that he had, and so I thought, I'm going to build my table, and actually I thought I'll get someone to build my table. I am not a carpenter. I have very little carpentry experience. I did a little bit of framing, and right out of high school, when I first moved to Texas, my brother-in-law did some framing, and brother-in-law and I did some framing, and but I was basically a grunt on that job. I did learn quite a bit about the basics of the framing a house and stuff I didn't know, so anyway. That's basically all the carpentry experience I had. Of course, I've done little projects here and there, especially when I owned my own home, and but nothing, I would say, this detailed. So, I asked around, and then I ran into the buddy that I played the game with, and he had a cousin, and we reached out to him, and he was like, no, I'm not really interested. And so it ended up, after probably about 9 months of just kind of asking around. And, I think my brother-in-law would have helped me, but he's in this big renovation on his house. So anyway, I just got to a point where I thought, I'm going to have to do it myself. And I haven't, like I said, I didn't have much experience. The other thing that was a huge challenge is I don't have tools. I don't have the tools to build the table. My father-in-law has a radial arm saw and a table saw. He's got some other tools, but when it came down to it, I wasn't going to be able to drive those nails like that. So I wanted to get a mechanical air gun, battery operated, because I didn't want to set up a compressor and hoses and all that. So I was talking to a guy at church about it, because I know he's kind of a handyman kind of thing. And I asked him, I said, and he offered to, I should say, actually, he works at Home Depot. I went in there. I told him I was looking at the guns because I might be purchasing one. He says, hey, I've got a brad nailer. You can borrow it. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. So, so I borrowed the brad nailer, and I did one little project, this little box. I made this little box. I keep my damage markers in it, and I usually keep my fuel gauges in there. Oh no, we moved them. I keep them somewhere else for right now. So I built that little box, and I thought, this is, I could use one of these. So a month or so goes by. I never really got in a mode where I could build the table, and he needed his gun back. And I said, you know what, you go ahead and just keep it. I said, I'm going to buy my own. So then I started looking, and that particular gun, it's a Ryobi Airstrike, 18 gauge. It was on sale for $99 or whatever. I don't know if it was on sale. It was $99. So I go in one time. It's $99. I go back in when I have the money to buy it. It's $120, 125, 135. And I'm like, come on. So I didn't buy it. So what I looked at though instead was a pin nailer, because a pin nailer for some of the stuff that I was going to do, I knew I was going to need it. And the pin nailer was about the same amount. And so to build those little boxes like I had started with the brad nailer, I thought, I'm going to use a pin nailer. And so I bought the pin nailer, got some nails, and so I had one tool. And now I should slow down and say, my father-in-law has a table saw, but it's very old, probably close to 40 years, maybe 50. And it's not in the greatest shape. It's not terrible. Definitely would cut. So when I did my first few cuts on it, the blade was super dull. And so I was having a lot of little issues with it. So I bought new blades for that and the radial arm saw. And but the fence on the table saw isn't in the greatest shape. It would move back and forth, but it's like it would just be a hair off, and it wouldn't necessarily stay straight. I probably should have put a level on it and all that stuff, but I never really did. And so, anyway, I didn't realize that until later, and I'll explain that in a minute. So at this point, I have the table saw. I have the radial arm saw. Radial arm saw is kind of a stationary saw that's, like it says, it's on an arm, and the action goes like this. It comes out and it goes back in. Now you can turn the blade and make it fixed at a certain depth. So those are the three tools I had. So then months go by, and I actually had another lead on getting the table built, and I kind of waited about 5 or 6 weeks, and it never happened. So I talked to my father-in-law, and I said, hey, listen, I want to start, I want to build a table. Where can I build it? We live in a building that is part of it we rent out, and it's actually my father-in-law's building, but my wife and I live here. And so 2 of the areas that we rent out are not rented at this time. And I just said to him, I said, I think we're going to have a tough time renting them while this COVID thing is going on. This is after, the first kind of not scare, but the first kind of, hubbub about it was coming around. So I said, how about I do it in this area? And he's like, yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. So now what I really needed, because I could do a lot of the long cuts, I could do some of the other small cuts, but I needed a brad nailer, and I needed a chop saw. And I didn't have either one of those. So I kind of sat on my hands for probably another month. And then we got our stimulus checks. And I told my wife, I said, I'm buying a chop saw, and I'm buying a brad nailer. And I said, so she was like, yeah, you should do it. But, if that's going to help you build a table. So I did that. And while I was there purchasing those 2 things, I also picked up, because all my tools are Ryobi, not because of any other thing. For years when I was in construction, I used DeWalt tools. And, but the Ryobi they're just less expensive, quite honestly. And when I talked to the guy that worked at Home Depot and another guy that worked there, they said, hey, listen, I've got a battery operated gun from DeWalt. And the piece that comes down and strikes the nail, those pieces all wear out on all the guns. And then you got to pay to get them fixed, or sometimes with Ryobi, it's just cheaper to buy a new gun. Maybe not, because I think they've gone up just a little bit. Anyway, so I bought the brad nailer, which I needed. I bought the chop saw, which I desperately needed, and I bought a router. Well, then I didn't really have anywhere to put the chop saw, so I bought one of these stands to put it on. And so I was using, so now I felt like I had the tools to build the table. So I started making cuts. I bought the plywood. First I had to go buy the wood. So I watched Cyberblood's videos again, and I kind of knew what I needed wood-wise just from taking notes on those videos. So I went to Home Depot, bought the wood, got my plywood cut to the size I needed, and brought it home, got everything set up, got it on horses, and I was ready to go. So I started making cuts on the table saw, and my first round of cuts, it was bad. It was bad. Like the main rails that go around the table that are all the same height, they were coming out the right height on one end, but not on the other. And I couldn't quite figure it out. And then I realized that the fence was a little bit off. And so if I was pushing all the way against the fence, it would start out at the right cut, and then it would get a little wider. So I made that adjustment. I knew I was able to take care of that problem. And so I'd probably cut 5 or 6 pieces when I realized that. And I was like, oh gosh. So anyway, I went and bought some more wood, recut had something come up on the screen. Recut the wood, and now it turned out right. And so I was ready to start nailing some stuff up. So, one second here. So me and my buddy, I told him, hey, we're not going to be able to play for a while and put my table together. And I really kind of worked pretty hard on it. For me, I was going down probably every other day and putting in at least 3 or 4 hours on it. And for me, it's a time-consuming process because I always had to think very long and hard about what piece it was, what exactly I was doing, all that kind of thing. And then for me also, when I nailed it, I do not have the strength right now in my physical condition to be able to kind of hold the plywood up and nail. So what I would do is I would lay on the ground and just kind of slide along and put the nails in underneath. And that's kind of how I nailed it all together. And so it's, so I really kind of worked hard on it. Then it came to the little cubes, the income tracker and technology tracker. And it was awful. It was just awful. It was a terrible, terrible experience. I had a terrible time making the cuts on the table saw, and so when I started putting them together, I started to realize how bad it was. I don't think I realized how bad it actually was until I started kind of putting them, nailing the 3 pieces together. And that the way Cyberblood does it. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, watch Cyberblood's videos. And if you watch those videos, you'll see what I'm talking about. But anyway, it was just a terrible experience because the cuts weren't coming out right. And if they don't come out right, when you go to put them together, it's not going to work. I mean, just plain and simple, not going to work. And so I went ahead and put them together. And because I knew until I could figure out a way to cut them and be accurate about it, that's the way it was going to be. And I definitely didn't want to put the table together without any, I shouldn't say without any, without the income tracker and the technology tracker. I did not want to put the table together without those. So I went ahead, I nailed the 3 pieces together, and then I started cutting the cubes. And that's when I realized it was much worse than I thought. Oh, gosh. And I'll show you that at the end of the story here. So now that I have the cubes cut out, I'm ready to kind of really start assembling the table. So I'll go ahead and start showing you the table and kind of where I'm at. I'll be right back. Okay, so basically, this is the table. And so let me just show you real quick. So the cubes, you can see, are not all the same. You can see on those 3 right there for sure. Now I took the good ones and I put them on this side with the, let me move this thing. On this side with the income tracker. And, you know, those are definitely better than these. When I show you these, you'll see kind of goes up and down the space here. So some of this stuff I can clean up with some wood putty, just kind of fill them in. I'll do some more sanding. You can see that big gap right there. That I don't even know how that happened. So anyway, so down on this end, the dice thing worked out pretty well. I cut this one for these 6 dice a little short. The black dice fit. The black dice fit over here, but the red dice don't. So I'm going to have to take a chisel and chisel out just a little bit for the length, and then they'll all fit. So I didn't finish this area. I had already had these dice trays that I got from HBG, and I already had the tray for the chips. Get this thing out of here. And then so we keep all of our small pieces in here. These are the arrows from the Risk, and then a bunch of white chips. We use blue instead of the green because I can't tell the difference between gray, because gray and white look almost the same to me on when they're underneath pieces. So we got away from that, and I can definitely tell the blue. So I didn't finish this area because I wasn't exactly sure how I want to do it. I want to get, that's just a plastic container holding my IPC chips. And I want to get a wooden one that will go with the table that I can paint. And so because I haven't done that, I didn't want to do that area until I figure out the size. But other than that, the table comes together like this. You can see that little gap there. I'm going to have to fill that in. Yeah, my miter joints weren't the greatest, but I knew that would probably be a struggle for me. So So that's the table. Now, when I was building it, um, I wanted to show you. I didn't put the blocks on this end or this end. The ones that I had left were just too bad, and so I'm gonna have to recut those and put those in. And so, all right, I'm gonna set this down. So we've been playing on it probably off and on for probably a few months now. Of course, my surgery, and I was in the hospital for a week. That kind of put a damper on the whole thing. But in the meantime, we found another guy who wants to play, which is great. You know, always having more options. I know this guy through church, and then also through he was part of our fantasy baseball league for years, which I still do, and so it works pretty well. We haven't started using the technology tracker. We're still using this little board. I got this. I printed off Sarblood's board, and then I put a metal backing, and I glued that to the metal backing, and then put magnets on all the roundels that we use for that. And so we're still using that for now. And I want to kind of get these marked. But one of the things I want to say is I'm going to build another table. I thought maybe I would try the one that folds that G.I. Joe built as his second table. The reason I would do that is, even though it may become my number one table, I would want to be able to put it away, kind of, so to speak. Now, before I built this actual finish table, we wanted to play, and I didn't have a place, so I bought some 2x4s and just kind of nailed a stand together. And then I bought a piece of the plywood and had it cut to size, and we played on that for a long time. It got bowed because originally, before I built the stand, we were using a Lifetime table, and we used a Lifetime table, but my father-in-law had stacked a bunch of stuff on it, so it kind of had a bow in it, and now the wood kind of warped to that. But so now my table is actually sitting on that board. I pushed the table off a little bit so you could see it. Whoa, hello. And so anyway, so it's sitting on that right now. So I could use that piece underneath to build my second table with. I've already got some of the wood, and so I'm not sure how exactly I'm going to do that, but that's part of the plan, is to redo it, and definitely get some help when it comes to cutting, assembling, and the cubes, the trackers. So, all right. So a couple things about my table that you may have noticed. I'm not sure if I've told you guys about these or not. So I saw these on, I think, Matt Todd's table. And so I wanted to get them because I thought they looked pretty cool. They're these little air bases, or I'm sorry, naval bases. And I don't know if you guys can see that very well. So anyway, and I thought, those are pretty cool. I want to use those. And but the thing I really loved that I saw on Matt Todd's, and I sent him a text and I said, "Hey man, where'd you get those?" So he sent me a link, and so I ordered the little air bases, which are really cool. I really like these a lot. I think I need to shoot a little coat of paint, because when you separate them, it leaves a little white spot. There it is. And so I think I'm just gonna dust them with a little black to cover that up. And so those are kind of new. Also, I was on Etsy looking for a wooden dice tray, and I came across this thing that's not wooden dice tray, wooden chip tray, place to put my poker chips. And I came across this chick who makes these dice trays, and you can customize them. And I thought, that sounds pretty cool. And so it was like $10, $10 to order it. And I thought, okay, that's cheap. So I ordered one, because I didn't want to order, 2 or 3 or whatever, because I didn't know if I'd like it. Now, so it says Power J's Tower on it, which is cool. That's what I asked her to put. These little pieces at the bottom are they're not optional. She just puts those on there, which is fine. Doesn't bother me. The problem with the dice tray is it's very thin. I mean, the dice actually stick up a little bit out of the tray. So if you roll it, they're going to bounce out a lot. So I thought it's kind of a novelty thing. I like it, and it's kind of cool, but it's not practical to use. I thought about contacting her to see if I sent her a dice tray, would she do the engraving for me? But I thought, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm sure I can get it done here in town. So that's the story of my table. A lot of things worked out well, and we're using it. I decided not to put the cup holders in. I need to say that for a couple reasons. One, I always have a tray or something by the table that I kind of use for whatever. And I just thought, I should keep the drinks on there. If I come back at some point and say, I do want the cup holders, I can always put them in. That's not a problem. And but that's the story of my table. Like I said, I'm very happy that it's at this stage, and I will finish it once I find a tray, a wooden chip tray to put my chips in. Now I have an uncle who's he's a small woodworker like that, and I may ask him to do it. I haven't done that yet. He had some heart issues last year, and I certainly wasn't going to ask him while that was going on. But he enjoys it. It's his therapy, kind of like this game is my therapy. And so I may ask him to do it. All right, those of you who are wondering, my foot's healing up fine. The surgery was a success. And being diabetic, most time wounds like that from surgery take a long time to heal. That's not the case. Mine is healing up great. Matter of fact, he was almost surprised how well it's healing up. And so anyway, we are moving at some point to the bloodbath. But since we got this new guy in our group, he's kind of new to G40. We got to kind of get him broke in and get some experience under his belt. playing G40 before we tried to teach him Bloodbath. And but things are, you know, kind of back on track. And I remember I bought a gimbal, but it doesn't work with my phone. I have an iPhone 11 Pro Max or whatever it's called, and my phone is too heavy for it. And so I tried to give it away to a friend who I know does a lot of videos, and he didn't want it. And they're really cool. Matter of fact, Hilltop Pillbox showed a little video where he was using a gimbal. And I know quite a bit about them because I couldn't figure out why mine wasn't working. And it's because my phone's too heavy. The motor in the gimbal could not support the weight of my phone, so it would always do this kind of thing. Which kind of sucks because I just got this phone a few months ago, and I only got the Pro Max because the camera in it is phenomenal. Now I'm using the forward-facing camera right now on me, but the camera you take pictures with and whatnot, if you're not doing selfies, it's phenomenal. You can be in pitch black and you take a picture and it's like it illuminates everything. It's really cool. And so I wanted that camera, and so I went up to the bigger phone. Now, if I did some investigating, I might find that there's a gimbal or something similar to that that I can use. But for now, the gimbal I can't use. I thought about returning it, but no, because my daughters could use it. Matter of fact, my one daughter's getting married in September, so we may use it for her wedding as just another perspective camera. So that's it. That's all I wanted to cover. But the table, in some ways, I'm very, very proud that I have this table that I never, ever thought I would be able to come close to being able to build it. But here it is. I did it. All right. This is Panzer J. Patton signing off.